Hey everyone, Beardo here. You're watching MINUTIA Minute, and it's time for your regular Wednesday comic book haul. And obviously I talked about Batman and I talked about Batgirl already in my previous video. So for this video I've only got 3 books left to talk about, and I've ordered them from least favorite to most favorite. And ironically, one of them is a perfect representation of what's horrible about comics. The other one is... the second one is a perfect representation of what's completely mediocre about comics. And then the last one is an example of what's absolutely stellar and awesome about comics. So we've got a broad range of books this week to look at. The stinker is what we're going to do first. And not surprisingly, it was written by Dan Didio. I'm of course talking about The Phantom Stranger issue number 1. Now, I didn't talk 0 issues because I was doing my Batman crossover thing that I did. So I didn't get to talk about The Phantom Stranger issue 0. A lot of you guys out there talked about it. You talked about how it was pretty lackluster, pretty, you know, like, there were interesting elements, but the dialogue was really bad and, you know, cheesy, and, you know, it felt like it was written by Dan Didio, right? I honestly really enjoyed it. I thought that the Judas Iscariot element was excellent, even though, you know, I get why people want the Phantom Stranger to stay a stranger. I thought that that was just too interesting an idea not to go with. I also really love that we saw the Spectre. That got me incredibly excited. I wasn't expecting to see him here in issue 1, but just the fact that he was back was really exciting. And I think that based on this issue, this is going to be the place you want to go if you want to see, you know, major Magic characters coming back, other than Billy Batson, who of course came back in Justice League. Now, downsides of issue 0 was cheesy dialogue and mediocre art, obviously. Now, we get to issue number 1, and unfortunately there's absolutely nothing in this book that was a saving grace for it. I can't really think of one element that worked for me. As a matter of fact, when I was reading this, I was confused, I was lost, I was not interested, and I was pissed off that I had spent $2.99 on this. I will not be picking up issue 2 of this, by the way. So, why is this book so bad? The thing that really struck me about this book is, and Sleepy Reader has talked about this a ton, and I think that he'll probably talk about it when he talks about this particular issue. He's talked about how important it is that the writer and the artist are working together and have a good rapport. And, this is a book in which that is not the case. Case in point, you've got this kid who is playing soccer in a courtyard, and he runs into the Phantom Stranger, stuff happens. Ultimately what's going to happen is this kid is going to get hit by a car. Now, you have this one establishing shot at the very beginning that sort of sets the stage where everything is, all that kind of fun stuff. And then everything else is generally sort of tight close-ups or medium full body shots, but you don't get a clear sense of where this kid is. Literally, the movement in this book is atrocious. So you have the stranger give the kid back his ball. Next panel, the kid has his ball, and the next panel after that, it's just sort of run off without him into the street. And of course, like, since you don't know exactly where the kid is when he dropped the ball in the first place, like, I had thought that this kid had kicked the ball into the street, but the Phantom Stranger saved it, and then the kid went running, kicking the ball back into the courtyard. But what actually happens is the opposite. The kid drops it in the courtyard, and then the Phantom Stranger picks it up because he's just creepy and weird. The kid grabs it, somehow, don't ask me how, loses hold of this fucking thing, and then he gets run out and hit by a car. And again, you have no idea what the through logic of this is. You don't get a sense of space, you don't get a sense of motion. And then in the first 3 pages of this book, you will be pissed off. So, continuing on, basically exactly the same thing happens the next time around. You have this woman who is in sort of a mourning situation, and again, everything is close-ups, you don't know where things are. All of a sudden she's outside, you don't know how she got out there really. I mean, you see her run out the door, but you don't really get a sense of, like, where she is in the world. You don't get a sense of just what the F is going on. And it turns out she has nothing to do with this family. She's just some kind of magical avatar person who I think I'm supposed to know who she is. I'm not particularly familiar with her. So this just kind of came out of nowhere for me because there was no real good throughway into it. There's this moment where she sees like all this random crap on like a shadow, but it's not a person, it's like this random like circuitry or something, and she's like, you know, I see your shadow, get away from me, you're not scaring me. And then she blasts back the shadow, I think, and it's this random like garbagey stuff, and I don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden the Phantom Stranger is there. Yeah, again, I was confused. I didn't get it. I don't want to get it. It was just stupid. The dialogue in this book is atrocious. The artwork in this, I thought was better than the Zero issue, but there are some, you know, shots of the Phantom Stranger that, like this one, where it's like he has no neck and it's just kind of a little bit confusing. And, you know, the problems just kind of continue on throughout. The best part about this book was the advertisement for Batman. Sorry, that was the low blow. But seriously, I mean, it really was that bad. Just stuff happens, you don't understand where this book is headed. There's supposed to be sort of an irony to what happens at the end because, you know, the Phantom Stranger made you terrible things, but they're ultimately going to be good things because he's paying his penance and all that. This is all stuff we learned in the Zero issue. We didn't need to get it again here in issue 1. Considering that the art on issue 1 did seem so rushed, I kind of wonder if he had written issue 1 and was working on issue 1, and then they're like, we're doing 0 issues, and they're like, oh, let's give Phantom Stranger a 0 issue, and they basically retell a whole bunch of stuff. There is a twist ending at the end of this that might intrigue you in terms of finding out more about the Phantom Stranger and his history, but all in all, the appearance of Pandora at the end is just too little too late. So yeah, Phantom Stranger, horrible, horrible book. If anyone would like to own this issue, I'm more than willing to give this book away or sell it or whatever. Let me know if you want it. Alright, now, the mediocre book of the week was definitely Green Lantern Corps. Now, I'm not normally someone who picks up Green Lantern Corps, but I wanted to give this a shot because I'm honestly thinking about dropping Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. I really, really am thinking about it. I haven't dropped Green Lantern since way back when. But I'm having a lot of difficulty getting through Jeff Johns' writing. And I thought, well, maybe it'd be fun to follow some of the other people, you know, in the Green Lanterns, you know, get to see Kilowog, Similor, and stuff like that, because those are the characters I really love anyway. So why wasn't I picking up Green Lantern Corps, was my honest-to-God thought. However, after picking this up, here's why I'm not picking up Green Lantern Corps. This is the place where all of Jeff Johns' ideas come to fruition after they've already happened in regular Green Lantern. You do have the rise of the Third Army going on in this, and you get way more of that in this book than you do in Green Lantern, but the problem is all of that very important information is getting, you know, thrown at us, and the big reveals for those are thrown at us in regular Green Lantern. So in Green Lantern Corps, basically you get the actual follow-through on Jeff Johns' story, which is nice to have because I've been complaining about not getting it in Green Lantern, but at the same time, it really feels like they're more mopping up Jeff Johns' mess. So as a result, this book was, again, pretty mediocre. The nice thing about it was you do get to really see the Third Army, you get to see what they're doing, what they're up to, you get to see the Guardians making their play to get rid of the other Lanterns, all the stuff that Jeff Johns set up in issue 12, I believe it was, of Green Lantern, where, you know, the Guardians are like, we have to get rid of Guy Gardner, here's how we're going to do it. We have to get rid of John Stewart, here's how we're going to do it. We got to get rid of these people, here's how we're going to do it. Guess what? We actually get to see them do it in this book. That was something that was a real treat. However, again, all of that stuff was set up in Green Lantern, and Green Lantern Corps is just sort of playing out. So something's got to be done with Green Lantern to get me really excited about it again. It really needs some editorial work to just get its storyline straightened out, streamline it. Hopefully after this Rise of the Third Army thing, after Jeff Johns kind of blows his load on the Guardians, I'm really hoping that they get kind of a fresh start after this. Someone else comes on, we get some fresh stories, fresh ideas, and hopefully we can see Green Lantern be as great as it was when Jeff Johns first rebooted it and did some amazing stuff in his first volume of Green Lantern. So anyway, mediocre book of the week definitely goes to Green Lantern Corps. Now, what could possibly be the best book of the week? Well, we all know that that was Batman. However, there was one book that came very close and definitely is this close to deserving pick of the week. And I honestly, like, it isn't pick of the week. And if Batman hadn't come out, I probably wouldn't have had one, because there are a few issues I have with this book. However, it was really good, and it's really a great expression of how good and interesting comic books can be. That is none other than Punk Rock Jesus, issue 4 of 6. Now, I've been worried about Punk Rock Jesus because the storyline has been amazing, but it hasn't delivered on what the title says it's going to be, Punk Rock Jesus. And by the time we get halfway through the series, you think, how are they going to get to that? How is this going to culminate? How is this story only going to last for 6 issues? And this is the transition issue. This is where we shift gears and we get the ultimate direction that the book is going to go in. I don't want to go into a ton of detail on this, but I will say that there's a lot you have to tell, a lot of story that has to be told to get from where we were at in issue 3 to where we're ultimately going to be at with issue 5. And I think that issue 5 is going to be really interesting. I think we're going to pick up on a lot of those really difficult religious ideas that they threw at us in issue 1. All of that's going to really start coming into the forefront here with issue 5. But with issue 4, as good as it is, it's a bit muddled, because you really gotta tell a lot of story and get through a lot of time before you can get to that point where you can really, you know, get back into the now and really talk about the issues that you wanted to develop. So what happens in this book, and I'm not going to spoil really anything particularly, but I will say that it's a lot of montages. You get some very concrete action at the beginning of this, and it's interesting that this book seems to open with action pretty much all the time. Since issue 2, there's been sort of a big opening fight sequence or chase sequence that kind of kicks off the story. You get that again in here. This one is a lot more personal than some of the other ones that are, and this one definitely has a lot more personal consequences that leads to some of the montaginess of the opening, or I'm sorry, of the middle of the book. And basically, this is the issue where Chris really starts to grow up, and you find out that as he grows up in this montage, he starts jump roping. Basically, he does a lot of exercise because this is how he's coping with being in the position he's in, which is more complicated than where we left him in issue 3, but I won't tell you because that spills the beginning of the book. And then he starts reading books, and he reads everything. This is where he becomes enlightened. This is where, you know, he learns about ideas that aren't just religion, and he tries to learn the balance of all those things. But as a rambunctious youth, there is no balance in it, in as much as there is only religion sucks. Is basically his attitude. And this is where we're going to get the punk rock Jesus. This is where the punk rockiness of him is coming out. And I'm going to show this page because it's not really a spoiler. This is very much the cover to issue 1 that we were all like, when does this happen in the book? Well, it happens in issue number 4. So after a big montage sequence, we do get a little bit of a sense of where his character is headed. He's very disillusioned, very lost as an individual, even though he has really opened up his mind. It's going to be really interesting to see where his character resolves, and if there's any place for him as a true, you know, second coming of Christ, or, you know, where that's going to go. I'm guessing he's going to end the world. That's what I'm feeling like is going to happen, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting. We do get a brief interlude towards the end, flashing back with Thomas and his youth. I thought it was really interesting, but that was kind of the biggest misstep of the book, because we're really focused on Chris, and then all of a sudden we kind of dip back into Thomas's backstory. I wish we could have gotten this in an earlier issue. I'm not entirely clear why we needed to get it here, although you do get a parallel sense of these two characters growing up, so that was, I see why he did it, but it did, to some degree, seem to hurt the pacing of the story. It definitely works thematically, but pacing-wise, it was a little bit messed up. And then that's basically where the issue wraps up, because we have one big last reveal towards the end, with Chris being Punk Rock Jesus, and I'm excited for the next issue. So Punk Rock Jesus, one of the better books I read this week. Not quite pick of the week, even if Batman hadn't come out. But all in all, this is a great story. This story really shows how subversive comic books can be in a mainstream medium. I mean, Vertigo isn't like DC or Marvel, but at the same time, like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison for another medium, but I mean, it's well enough known that to have a story that's this religiously sensitive is why comic books really can add something that other literature can't. So anyway, there you go. This is Punk Rock Jesus, issue number 4. Best book of the week other than Batman for me. Middle road book of the week went to Green Lantern Corps. Bit disappointing, but it was nice seeing the actual story playing out in this book. And then finally, The Stinker. If anyone wants this book, PM me, let me know in the comments, whatever. If enough people want it, we'll do a raffle. I don't know. Either way, I'm getting rid of this book. Phantom Stranger number 1, no thank you. Alright, so there you go. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed my last 2 versions of episode 60, and I'll be back again next week with more of the usual. Talk to y'all soon.